Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, and on the other end is Pascal Floor. He is currently rocking the really historic
OG,
Revive. Yeah,
the OG
Revive,
West.
That was a t-shirt,
It was a
right?
t-shirt, yeah. So the way that I do things nowadays is I'm buying my shirts in bulk, right, over at H&M. So in different colors, always the same style though. And at some point though, I don't know whether it's the fabric, but at some point it really smells under the arms. You can't do anything against that. No matter what I'm doing, I can't get rid of the smell. So at that time, I'm just cutting off the arms, use that as a vest, and buy the next round of shirts then, like 10 pieces or so. That's how I do things. And you now can guess what happened to this shirt under the arms. So yeah.
This is why I like doing that, and I need to do that more actually, especially for t-shirts that I like the logo, and it just smells. It's so frustrating. But I quite like oversized t-shirts for that reason. So when you're sweating, it actually just, I don't know where it goes, but it just like goes down your side, not onto the t-shirt.
That's true.
I love training in those tops, like oversized ones. They're
that's
pretty
true. So it's funny because in the past I was always wearing super tight clothing, also then the shirts and stuff, right? And now I hate that feeling. Like pants, of course, it's a different thing. I'm still wearing skinny jeans. Legend London, by the way, shout out to Legend London. And I was also there. I bought in bulk. I just bought like I think 7 jeans at some point, and I'm just rocking them for as long as possible now. But especially with tops, they need to be now a little bit more oversized. I don't know what it is, but this feels so much more comfortable now. So, and that's a good thing because those very tight shirts, they start to smell very soon after you just purchased them.
I think it was like ASOS have like their muscle fit ones or something, and they're like stretchy tight ones.
Ugh.
I think I had one of those, and I'm like,
Yeah,
this is not like it should be comfortable, but it just digs under my armpit and makes me sweat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Off-season, particularly oversized, is where it's at. You just look big in this like t-shirt. Big for a natural guy anyway.
Yeah, but when you're cutting, so just, what was it, 1.5 weeks ago, Katie and I had, for the first time in over a year, kind of a date night where just Katie and I had time for another. But because we were old, we just went to a restaurant, went home again afterwards. But at the restaurant, Katie took a picture of me, and I was wearing one of those bigger shirts, and I just looked like someone who doesn't even lift, like at all. And I was just like, oh man.
That's how I imagine I'd be looking right now. Like, and especially today, new low weigh-in. I was like, whoa, I'm getting light now. I haven't been this light in a long time.
I saw your Instagram post here today, like the story. Man, the chest striations now come out. And
even more.
It really paid off that you trained the abs. Like really paid off. Man.
Yeah, the abs. I didn't realize how much a difference ab thickness makes to aesthetics, but it makes a big. I thought like men's physique, I always appreciated. Yeah, it makes quite a big difference. But even for men's bodybuilding, and I still have crap abs. Like they're still pretty rubbish, but they're much better than they were, and they actually show something. But yeah, the chest. I was like, I thought the chest was finished with fat loss, and I was like, got a few more striations come through now. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, I think what was my weight this morning? 170.2 pounds.
What is that again in kilograms then?
Let me do some math. I always just divide
let you
it
do
by,
the math. Let the calculator do the math. You're saying
just over 77 kilos.
All right. Wow.
77.1.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll need to get as light as I did in my last prep, but I'm getting lighter than maybe. In some ways, I had some input on what my predicted lowest weight would need to be. And I understand where they were coming from. And I was definitely stage ready at that weight, which was basically 175 pounds. But in my mind, I always thought I'd have to get leaner than that. And I mean, I'm dropping to, not that my weekly average will be 170 this week, but I think to get the type of condition I want, I needed to come below that.
Yeah.
So it's actually something I've learned recently. I may have said it to you, Pascal, because I don't know, I was working with a client and I had a predicted stage weight in mind for him. and someone else who I really respect gave their viewpoint, and it was a good like £5 or so more than I had. And I was like, oh, are we too ahead of schedule? We weren't. My actual idea of where he needed to be was correct, which gave me a bunch of confidence. And also,
sorry, I totally misunderstood that. It sounded like above in the sense of like that he had to lose more, but his estimated stage weight, like the total body weight, was higher, you mean?
So they thought, maybe let's just say it's similar to me. So like the individual said, you're probably 175 pounds. I don't see you having to go below that. So it was similar for them. They were told that by this kind of other individual, but I had them £5 below that in my head.
Yeah. Excellent.
So it's just given me confidence as a coach that my coaching eye is good, because he did need to get below where that was said. And likewise, I've needed to get below that number. I think I guess people have different ideas of how conditioned needs to be. I'm kind of, it made me nervous to go below 170 pounds to see that. I'd be like, oh, but at the end of the day, I'm also realizing more and more how the scale weight, once you get into this position, like the physique speaks for itself. The scale weight, I don't give a shit if you weigh 10 pounds more on stage. If you're not as conditioned as you needed to be or could have got, like just get lighter and get similar to your previous stage condition, which was always the thing that people said as natural bodybuilders, like your stage weight doesn't change much. You just get more conditioned, and so you're more muscular. But I still think I'll definitely weigh quite a lot more than previously, but maybe not as much as my two qualifiers
Last
were.
time was 165, wasn't it?
My lowest weigh-in was 159 pounds.
Oh, really?
But on stage, I was about £5 above that.
Yeah,
So 165 was roughly my stage weight. So I don't see myself getting down to that.
No.
But it's exciting. I'm just like, I'm in that position. We spoke a few weeks ago where we're saying like how prep is just kind of happening in the background. And that was great. I'm now in the position where I'm really struggling to take my mind off prep. Every evening, like I'm dreaming about competing. Like I'm not even joking. Like everything is like prep. I'm like,
I think it's understandable though at the position where you're in right now, right? I mean, once again, just take a look at the last stage shots of yours. These are already now 3 weeks.
Yeah, how long ago? Almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
When this comes out, it'll be over 3 weeks.
Yeah, and now take a look at the story from yesterday. You're getting to those territories where I think the challenge, so the mental game, or contest prep is mostly in it for itself, a mental game. Because when you're in the groove, hunger isn't really the issue. Most of the time, it's lethargy. Often the lack of sleep, which then leads to the lethargy. So it's becoming more of that mental battle against yourself. So with the level of leanness that you have right now, I think it's becoming more and more that kind of mental inner battle, where it's like, all right, I have to just like dig and keep the goal, right? Yeah. And the good thing is that you are at a level where there's something for you to achieve. And I think that can be quite motivating.
Yeah, I think for some people, like if I consider last prep where in my qualifiers, I qualified and I came third. You're not really thinking if you qualify for finals, you come third and you're already quite lean, that you're going to go to finals and perform really well. Now, I did all right. But this time round, like I've won my qualifier that I'm going to finals with. So I'm thinking, man, I'm just like, this is good. Yeah. Like I've got a real shot at this. I was saying to Charlotte, and I guess this could lead on to things. I've just recently made a change. I sent Brett Freeman some shots and kind of discussed with him.
Brett Freeman again?
Sorry? Who's Brett Freeman? That basketball player. And yeah, Brett Freeman. So I love the guy. He's such a nice guy. So humble. And anyone who doesn't know who he is, just search Bathtub, BAFTUB, and I'll definitely get him on. I thought get him on for a podcast at some point once I've completed prep, just talking about what we discussed, because it's not like I'm bugging him. Sorry,
it's funny because I once wrote in my message and said like, there are not many people online that I would really genuinely like to meet in person, and no offense to anyone who's listening. But he's definitely one of them, and I even told him that I would love to have the opportunity to meet him in real life at some point. Yeah, because he's such a genuine guy.
Really is, and yeah, it's not like I've been in his ear every day or something. It's like every week I kind of just check in with him and be like, this is where I'm at. This is what my thoughts are. This is how I look. What do you think? And we often, he thinks very similarly to me, which is great. And I was like, because I was in that position where I'm like, should I just continue doing what I'm doing? Or have I got a bit of time to push a bit harder? And I'm like, I feel like stuff's okay. Like I'm not in a terrible position. I can pull that lever a little bit. And he agreed with me. So I've just made some adjustments to push a bit harder now. My steps just inherently came up because Charlotte's now in the office. So I'm doing an extra 2,000 steps every day. So my step average is now 18,000 pretty much, 17 to 18,000, which isn't terrible. But remember, that's
especially
all
with a dog at home.
Oh, yeah. It just happens, like part of life. I was saying to you, I'm very thankful that I can actually do so much work from my phone because then it can be productive. And so, yeah, with the weighted vest on the whole time, doing those steps, that's a significant like output. And I just reduced my calories by 100, 150 on refeed days just to be in about another 200 calorie deficit to just dig these final bits.
What does this look like for you?
So I'll be on about 200 grams of 200 grams of carbs. 200 grams of protein. It'll be 300 carbs, 45 fat on my low days.
Yeah,
not terrible. It's about 2,400 or so calories. And then on my higher days, my carbs will come up about 150. My fats, I let them come up like 5 grams just to allow for like the fact that that's going to happen inherently. So that's how that will look. And it's only 2.5 weeks now, or less. Yeah, about 2.5 weeks, a bit less until finals. And then the idea is to do another progressive linear load into finals. And then from there, I'm 1 week out from my final shows, depending on if I qualify somehow for Worlds. And I'll just be at a maintenance for all of those because I'm done basically with fat loss at that point.
Now, I don't want to interrupt you because you were still in the midst of talking about the refeeds, but I could see that some of the listeners are now wondering, all right, he wants to push and he's dropping the calories on his refeed days. Why not just drop the refeed days all along?
So that is definitely a consideration. Like you could definitely make that. And I don't think there's a bad argument for that. But I have been enjoying the refeed days, definitely from a psychological perspective, knowing like, I know I've heard Mike talk about this where he talked about it in a negative sense of you get a bit of light at the end of the tunnel and then you're back into darkness. But for me, they're like, I know I can push these days because I get to have like, they're a bit of a, and I know this could be taken the wrong way and taken to an extreme. I think it definitely could be like, it's not a binge and a purge. It's just like, it's a bit of a respite. It's like, I really talk about it as if it's a refuel psychologically, physiologically, so I can then go into my next training week and be like, oh, I've just had like an extra 150 grams of carbs or whatever it is. I've got legs the next day. It's a hard session. I can do it. I've just had that refeed. So I think we don't have enough data to support which would be better in that scenario. For me right now, I've been running the refeeds and I don't know, they're all right. They seem to be working. But I mean, I don't think it wouldn't work if I was to just average out calories. And removing the refeeds might end up being a bit more of a calorie deficit overall for the week. I'm not sure. I'd have to do the numbers.
So sorry to pester you on the refeeds then. But I think that once again, the audience have then a couple of questions when they are hearing you talk about that. So are you first and foremost doing them back to back? So are you doing them 2 days in a row, or are you, because now you mentioned the leg days, are you always doing that in front of a leg day in order then to, I don't know, fuel the leg days?
I do them back to back, and I don't think there's enough evidence to say you have to do them back to back. I think what we do have suggests back to back's probably better. So you have more chance of really refueling glycogen stores. You have a bit more time influencing different hormones, give the body a bit more of a prolonged break. And when we think about the fact that it seems like more time in a row of maintenance seems to be better than less, I think that might be slightly better. But no, I haven't. So I'm doing them back to back for that kind of reason. And again, I'm saying it like that because there's not like a strong reason to why that's necessarily better. I'm doing it, at the start of my training week at the moment. And I was doing it at the end of my training week before, but it's just because what ended up happening is I took my deload and like peak week Now it's basically a full week of higher carbs, and I pushed for 8 days. So I didn't take refeed the first week after that because I was like, I can push here. I've just had a whole week off. And then I took 2 refeed days at the start of the next week. And then it just ended up being, 5 on, 2 off, 5 on, 2 off kind of thing. That's kind of what I'm rolling with.
Yeah, I think what was very important, not there, but before we actually talked about back-to-back refeeds, is the way that you view the refeeds. That it's not just like a relaxation of the diet or like, oh, I need a mental break, but it's more like I'm refueling so that I'm able to push further, because I think it gives the refeeds a little bit of a different connotation. It's not like the diet is stopping or that you are taking a break from the diet. It's just a different section of the diet still. And I think that it's super important, because otherwise you're always running risk of maybe overeating, falling off the wagon, because it is a break from the diet after all, right? And I think that this is very, very valuable of what it is that you brought up there.
Yeah, I'm trying to almost placebo myself into believing the refeed's really doing something for me. I'm like, oh yeah, I can increase my steps by 2,000 because I've just had all this extra food, and like I can push more. Like I'm trying, and like my training's better because I'm having these refeeds. So I am trying to, whether or not there is any true physiological thing happening, at least psychologically. And like we've said before, I think I always, like when the data came out about refeeds not being anything physiological, mostly psychological, it very much was like with my bias of not doing refeeds. But the more I think about how important psychology is towards physiology and how much prep is a mental game, I realize, well, maybe there is something there. And then in terms of like, I don't know if there's something to keeping them in and having that higher intake for a day, so your body keeps a bit more of a higher carbohydrate tolerance. So it's used to having like a higher intake. So if you just low all the time, when you then try and kind of have a peaky approach, maybe the body's like, man, this is a lot more carbohydrates than we'd have to assimilate and digest before. It's maybe not got the enzymes all ready and waiting for you. Whereas if you keep the refeeds in there, it might just be a bit more like, we've dealt with this kind of carbohydrate influx before. We're ready to be able to deal with it again, and maybe we load glycogen a bit better. I'm not sure. It's just theory and ideas, really.
It's a very good thought, though, which I didn't really take into consideration when considering refeeds. I was always thinking about refeeds in a different kind of sense. Also then, of course, to kind of practice or see how a body or an individual is responding in a peak week. But I never really took that into consideration, that the tolerance to carbohydrates could also possibly play a role, because what it is that I'm doing right now with the vast majority of my athletes is that they are eating relatively the same meals leading into the peak week. Because I don't want to risk that once they are introducing a lot of carbohydrates, that they can't digest it and end up being bloated, end up having digestive issues, and thus looking actually worse in a peak week. And by having those refeed days, you're not only keeping possibly the carbohydrates tolerance up, but perhaps even also helping with the digestion of higher foods and more carbohydrates in a short period of time. Something that I didn't really that much took into consideration before, to be honest.
Sometimes, at least I've heard anecdotally, but this is definitely the case for me, my gastric emptying slows. And then by the time the refeed comes, I'm like, oh, I'm pooping a lot. This is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It kind of clears the way. So I think there's something there to that idea and thought. And I think just the fact that bodybuilders for so many years have used this, and they didn't even have science at any point. They just kind of use these cheat meals, that they probably called it initially, and now it's more thought as refeeds. I think there's something to that. Not that always like the people, like you can't always take anecdote strongly, but I think at the moment
it's worth.
I've got no reason not to.
Yeah, exactly. You have time on your side, so to speak. You can allow for those refeed days, so why not playing around with them? Because if you're just pushing through it, what's the benefit then? You said it yourself, you are in a more severe caloric deficit, which is not really required in that kind of sense. You can still just lower the calories coming on the refeed days, and you still end up in a more severe caloric deficit, which is sufficient enough. So I think this is how we get to our own conclusions, by then testing things out for ourselves as well.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description. Yeah. I think for me, my kind of low days aren't so low that they're like running me into the ground.
No.
Whereas I can see
2,400 calories, man.
Exactly. Whereas if someone's like under 2,000 and they're holding on to these refeeds with dear life, maybe if you just drop that refeed, you wouldn't have to drop your low days to like 1,500 or something. Maybe that would be worth it. Again, that's more of an adherence thing, but yeah, I'm actually, initially it made me a bit worried to change because I've been running the kind of 5 and 2 really successfully. I'm enjoying it and it's going fine. So I was initially like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to drop like even 100 calories? I was like, oh, it just feels, it's like, oh, like you want to hold on to everything. Yeah. Whereas now I've made the change. I just was like, no, this is exciting. This is going to bring more results. It was I kind of talked about it and like leaning into the difficult times is like, this is, yeah, let's go this route. It's a calculated risk that I'm taking. And I'm excited to see if I can bring something through that I've never seen on my physique before.
Yeah, but it's looking promising. Right. So once again, you have time on your side. There are things that I've never seen on your body. I mean, you are someone who's always had a very, very well striated chest. But when I saw this Instagram story, I was just like, wow, this is a chest I've never seen on Steve before. Yeah. And this is a representation of the entirety of your current physique as well.
Yeah. So I'm just, the thing that frustrates me is the dreaming about competing, and it actually not positively impacting my sleep. It's actually negative. And then also like in the mornings, I do find myself spending a bit more time like looking in the mirror and like tensing the glutes. Are they in yet? Are they in yet? What's going on? Which infuriates me a little bit. So I'm like, Steve, stop looking. It's going to take more than a day for there to be a big change.
Stop it. No, I can't. Stop it. No, I can't. Look at their glutes. That inner dialogue you have.
It's ridiculous. But actually, I was going to say some things that I've done to make this next process easier for me. One is I've just said to Charlotte, evening meals, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm ducking out of trying to do something with her just for my sanity, because we end up discussing it, and you probably know what it's like trying to organize like a dinner together. And this will fit my macros, and I'm just like, and she might be home late, and I'm like, I should have eaten an hour ago. I'm really getting hungry. I'm just like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm gonna do basically sort of a massive salad in the evening again. Not massive, but bunch of veggies. I'm going to remove the carbs from that meal, and that's going to solve one thing. And then I'm probably going to start using a bit more caffeine daily. I'd always just had like a Monster a day, and that was like and maybe a pre-workout.
And now it's going to turn up to 3.
Now it's going, basically I'll have a Monster first thing, and then a coffee pre-workout, and maybe another coffee later if I really need it. But I want to try and keep it to a moderate level, because I don't want it to be that it impacts my sleep a lot, because I can see that getting out of hand. So they're the main changes. And then I have like, we've talked about it before, the supplement from De Novo. I can't remember what Suppress it's called. It's basically 5-HTP and some fiber and some capsicum, I think it is.
Are you at the point where you need it?
I've used it intermittently here or there. If I know I'm going to be like, I took it to Charlotte's parents, for example, to just like take it and be like, okay, I'm going to take it for this meal.
With it.
Yeah, just to any points where I'm like, it's going to be a prolonged time till I get to eat something actually satiating. It's going to be more than just, I don't know, some protein bars or something. So no, I've not been using it consistently at all. The only thing I've been using consistently is like my usual sleep supplements and ashwagandha I've been taking for the last week. So I don't want to rely on things.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you want to be careful with introducing those, because when you don't really need it, it could actually then become kind of a reliance on that.
Yeah.
Where then you took it once, next day you feel shitty again, then you decided to do it again the next day, and then it turns just a usual habit of yours, right? When you don't really need it, but you've just gotten used to using it.
That's what it's like with the caffeine. I don't want it to be like I get used to just always having 3. I'm okay letting myself get used to having 2 servings of like a coffee and a Monster. That doesn't sound excessive. So yeah, we just have to see how that goes. There was something you made me think of actually. I don't know if this will make you proud. It makes me proud thinking of this. Chewing gum. I haven't touched it. Barely at all.
Cool.
Yeah. And this was just something, not that chewing gum's bad or anything like that. I just abuse it. I'd be chucking in 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. I'd get through a packet or more a day. And it's just like, could do without having all of that crap. Like
it overall though sounds to me, and this is a kind of recurring theme over the past kind of improvement season podcasts, that your prep is just way more mature this time around.
Yeah.
Making better decisions. It's way more balanced. It's way more just, I can't really find a different word that is more appropriate than mature, right? Wholesome foods. You're not abusing volume and size. You're not abusing like substances in the sense of like supplements or chewing gum, diet soda or anything alike. To me at least, it sounds like a very, very healthy and mature prep.
Yeah. Yeah, just all of those things can start adding up and you just kind of feel a bit disgusting, I think. Like if you have loads of diet drinks, you have loads of like, I don't know, shirataki noodles, you have loads of chewing gum and you have loads of sweeteners and Walden Farms, and suddenly you're just like, I just feel like my guts just feel terrible and like I feel like a mess. And especially if you have lots of caffeine, that can really start knocking your sleep and you just feel awful. So yeah, I'm glad I want to avoid that as much as possible, and like being smart, periodizing these tools a little bit. And that's why I'm introducing a few, like it is that stress relieving, not having to do Charlotte and mine dinner like together. It's just like, oh, that's a load off my mind. I don't even have to worry about what Charlotte's doing. I can just sort out my own dinner. So that's its own little hack in its own right. So yeah, I'm just excited to see how things change, and every week now is a big change. Like a pound drop that's a big change of my physique right now. So I just hope it comes from, maybe I need to get the what's it called, that like thermo cream, and rub that on my glutes. Maybe that will be what does it for me. Then I'll get that's Brett Freeman's secret, is the cream on the glutes.
Is it?
No, he doesn't. No, do that.
I was just like, is he really doing something like that?
No.
I think isn't it like yohimbine cream or so?
I think it is something like that.
Yeah.
Like it.
And
it's like
wrap
deep
it
heat.
in. Yeah, and then wrap it in like plastic foil or something like that.
You have to wrap your butt in.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you know that fad still from like I think it was the early 2000s?
Ronnie Coleman swears by it, doesn't he?
Yeah, wrapping your belly in kind of plastic foil with a cream or so.
Yeah, I understand when people try and get scientific with it and like, oh, you're heating the muscle cells and that helps to kind of let them alleviate and stuff. There's just no evidence, particularly strong evidence, to suggest it's doing anything.
No.
So I'm more so not relying on things like this.
And I mean, you can still get lean. You can still get lean. It's just, I mean, people, and I see where this is coming from, because this is how people always evolve. They always want to get further ahead in a more simplistic way as well. That's why we have innovations, right? But you can still get there in just, I don't want to call it traditional ways, but just doing the work.
Yeah. I mean, the weighted vest is a bit of a quirky thing, but when you think about it, like, it makes a ton of sense. Just makes a ton of sense. Yeah. So if you can do that, and actually this prep in particular, I've just fallen in love with bodybuilding so much this time round, and the process. Cool. Like, part of me doesn't want it to end. I'm still enjoying this more than peak off season by a long shot. Like, I'm loving it. Like, there's times where I'm like, fuck, I could really do with eating a pizza or something. Yeah. But for the most part, and I want to like enjoy training a bit more again in terms of being progressive, and I want to improve my physique. But I'm still, really enjoying just like being part of the true natural bodybuilding scene for the moment. Yeah. It's really nice. And I'm so thankful for the job we do, because it's a huge upper hand for contest prep. Huge. Like I was just saying to Charlotte, even like my shows and like booking my tan and like my trunks and like travel, that can all actually be expensed as like a tax. Like it can go against taxes.
Yes, I know.
Whereas for the normal average person, they can't, like even from a monetary standpoint, and all the time and effort I'm putting in here is helping the business grow.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing it for that reason, but it is. Whereas most people, it's hurting their career, you know, because they can't concentrate as much.
Yeah,
so
true.
rather than, I don't feel bad about that. I'm just like, I'm fucking going to use that to my advantage. Like, you better know my other competitors who have to fucking work a 9 to 5 or 9 till 9 and struggle. I'm sorry, but like, I'm going to really use that to my advantage and make the best I can.
I think it would also be disrespectful the other competitors against the other competitors and the people who aren't in your position, because I think that so many people would love to be there.
Yeah.
But they can't. It's the age-old thing of like the talent, right? Other people would love to have a specific talent, but they need to work their ass off and actually making it, right? And the one with the talent, he's just leaning back, he's just relaxing, and you're just like, you better make this work. Come on, get your ass off. Yeah. You kind of have a gift here, so to speak.
I have no excuse not to nail my variables, which is also why I think I'm really glad I have Charlotte by my side, because I think she keeps me grounded and my clients. Like, I can't treat my clients exactly like I am because my circumstances are very different. I have to put myself in their shoes. I have so much respect for those who do a contest prep and they have like a whole family and they've like an office job that's completely unrelated to what we're doing. So I don't like, I don't know what it could be. You didn't get 8 hours sleep. You're like completely such an asshole. It's like, well, if they had to work late, they had to put their kids to bed, they had to get up early, take the kids to school. God, give them a break. Like, that's hard. I've got this easy, in fact. So yeah, when I have to push and make it hard, like it's hopefully going to bring that result. Yeah, I kind of feel disappointed if I didn't bring something really good to stage, because I have everything in my favor. Everything. I'm very blessed in that regard.
I find it cool though that you're acknowledging that and that you turn it around. Don't feel spoiled or so, but be like, I kind of do it for you guys. You know what I mean? Because you own it to them that you are in that position to give it your all, because the other people who aren't would probably do it if they were in your shoes. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm with you. Even like me comparing myself to you, I still have it easier for sure, because you have a family. That's another commitment. Like, I have a dog, and like really just an accountability tool for getting steps. Like, again, that's a good thing. She can be a pain in the ass. But.
I saw though, where was it? I think, what's it called? Ben Carpenter. He did a post about like not everyone's 24 hours are the same 24 hours. And I never really thought about it that way, but he had a very, very good point there. Because when I compare my life now to the life I had just 5-6 years ago, maybe even earlier, I was so convinced that I don't have any kind of time back then. But that's utter bullshit. I could have used so much of my time for productive stuff, and I would have been so much further in my endeavors now if I just had used the time and took advantage of that. Because now it's so much harder to have time available for the things that I want to do. Right? It's the age-old saying of like, when you don't have it, you want it even more. Right? And that's the same when it comes to time. And then someone in the comment section said that it's a decision of having kids. Well, yes, it is. You are now not only living your life for yourself, but you're living your life also for your children. At least that's my mantra. I know that not every parent sees it that way. I unfortunately have seen parents who don't give a fuck about their kids. I've kind of, to some extent, experienced that myself. But I don't want to be that guy. For me, all the decisions that I'm making, they are impacting my kids. And all I'm working for right now is something that I want to give to my kids. Experiences, knowledge, money as well. I want them to have a good life, or at least a uncomplicated life in the areas where it's supposed to be uncomplicated. I still want them to experience stress. I still want them to deal with challenges and all that kind of stuff. But my life is not my life anymore. My life is also then the life of my kids and my family. And that's why the 24 hours that I have, of course, it could be absolutely selfish and a freaking arsehole and leave my family behind and do just me. Then, of course, I still have those 24 hours for myself. But because I'm not that guy, I need to split or at least share some of the time with my family, at least for a temporary amount of time in my life. When the kids are growing older, of course, then you once again make more time available to yourself as well. But because of that, right? And I know that there are other people out there who are not even working from at home. As you said so rightly so yourself, they are working in a company, they are employees, they need to be there at the same time, need to take care of their kids as well. That is freaking hard. Freaking hard. I can tell you this. If you don't want to just be an irresponsible human being or parent, you don't have those 24 hours only for you. You prioritize probably the time that you have and give it to your kids over your own things or the things that you want to do.
Yeah. Even having a relationship, you initially you lose some independence. So with the dog, you lose a bit of independence, and then having kids, that's a big lot of independence you start losing because you have responsibilities that you have to take care of. And I think the time is now, as far as I'm concerned, for me, actually. There is not, if I really wanted to, I could, I guess, not do podcasts, not do social media, just do my client work, let my client numbers really come down. I'd still be financially stable. Yeah. I'd still be able to come back to doing these things. I'm not going to let all of that go. And obviously I'm still trying to, that's one of the hard things. When you're in prep, oftentimes that's the time the business is flourishing, but you don't have the energy for it. I still want to make sure I do podcasts, go on other people's, although it is hard to do that, but still run ours, still be there, still be present, still post on social media, really keep the ball rolling so I can really kind of make the most out of it. Whereas, I can see why a lot of competitors, especially if they're not in the industry working in it, they just keep themselves because it's tiring sharing the whole thing. I can definitely see that. So anyway, I want to ask how things on your end.
I've not that much to report.
When's your refeed?
I don't know. I thought it's yesterday, and then the day after that I thought it's yesterday as well. So right now sitting in the 74s, which is very cool because my weight was a little bit stubborn for 2 weeks, maybe also because I caught a cold. As you were able maybe to tell, I'm trying to cut out all of the parts where I'm coughing, but maybe there's one cough actually somewhere in the podcast recording. And I didn't notice how shitty I felt. It was last weekend. It was leading up to that, and I didn't notice how shitty I was feeling up until the point where I was by myself with Tony at home and I needed to take care of him and, of course, be there for him the entire day. And I was really, really feeling run down. And maybe this is also because I have some kind of infection at the moment that is not keeping me from things, but I could feel it in some of the training sessions that I was actually getting a little bit hotter more quickly, and also fatiguing a little bit earlier as well, alongside them with just being at home, coughing severely. And I didn't notice it up until then the weekend, and perhaps it played then also into the scale weight behavior I saw, because then from I think Sunday to Monday it dropped by 0.7 or 0.8 kilograms or so in a matter of just one night. And now I'm sitting at around 74.7. And chucking along, ticking off the boxes. Of course, the dietary effects slowly accumulate now. I've been also in a caloric deficit since a longer period of time, so it's not really a surprise. The leg sessions are the ones that are getting harder now. I can feel that my legs are more quickly fatiguing in a session, so they are feeling like jelly after just a handful of sets already. And just overall, they are just feeling a little bit harder, those sessions, harder to motivate, harder to keep the performance up. There are just a handful of exercises, we've been talking about it already, just a handful of exercises where I can see that the performance is declining slightly, such as on the SLDL, for example, that's coming down just marginally already. But other than that, it's going well. I think that I'm in a groove when it comes to nutrition, that hunger isn't really an issue at all. Food focus as well, because I have very, very good habits around at the moment. I have a very good structure, very good routine. I have things that I enjoy eating. So it's very, very a very solid routine overall in that regard. The only thing that then, of course, comes up is just every now and then a little bit more lethargic. Mood swings are also gone again. I've talked about it like 2 weeks ago, and I would also possibly now, due to the timing, attest it to me getting sick during that time, and just due to that feeling more lethargic, and then in return being a little bit more irritable or a little bit snappy overall. But yeah, right now, it's just continuing, just ticking off the boxes. That's the plan for now, and we've both discussed that I want to drag it all the way until the end of October. And because of that, because I have no clear deadline, I don't have any kind of specific goal, I don't have any kind of specific look that I'm aiming for, that I'm starting to possibly incorporate also refeeds to just play around a little bit and also make it a little bit more adherable up until October. It's only 5 to 6 weeks now left, so it's not that crazy long anymore, but still 5 to 6 weeks. And of course, these 5 to 6 weeks can be long if you're not careful, and that's why once again I'm not then considering throwing in some refeeds just to get even more experience around them as well, see how I can structure them, where to structure them, what's beneficial, when it is beneficial, how to just do them, plan them, etc., to further increase my knowledge around them as well.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
I forgot to mention, actually, before I have some questions, but I've had a cold since Monday. I had Monday, Tuesday, I had refeed days. I felt really crappy both those refeed days. And so I've just had, but it's clearing now. So today it's a little better. So I think by the time this weekend rocks around, it'll be gone. But it's surprising how much that knocks you when you've been dying a long time and you get a cold. It doesn't matter if it's a refeed day or not. Like, you just feel beat up. And it's actually interesting to hear as well with you, because it's happened to me as well, where some of these diet fatigue symptoms kind of, they come and go. So one of them for me was I was getting lightheaded quite often. And ever since I took my diet, well, I was in a diet break, the peak week, I haven't had that really lightheaded feeling. It's kind of gone. So when I stand up and stuff, my blood pressure's obviously, don't know, somehow improved. I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But it's great that for you, like, you're just in a really good rhythm. I can't remember, how long actually have you been dieting now? Has it been longer than I think?
So it has been long. It must be said, though, that I had that time back in May where I was very, very sick, as you may recall. Right? And that took a long, long time to overcome that. I was dieting before that already, just for a short period of time. And then I needed to take a prolonged break due to the sickness that I've experienced, which was very, very severe. And then I got back into the diet. I think it was around beginning of July, I think it was.
Okay.
So ever since then, I'm constantly, or have been constantly, in a caloric deficit, no diet breaks. Of course, there have been I think 3 days where I had high calories, and that was basically it. So yeah, it has been a longer period of time now. So in total, if I just, without having the data in front of me, I would guess it's around 16 to 20 weeks or so. Okay. Somewhere around there.
Similar to me then, actually.
Yeah. So, and I was coming from, I think, 88 kilograms or so, and now I'm sitting at around 74. So it's not the fastest rate of weight loss, I was reading through my data, and I'm right now averaging out at around 0.6% of body weight gain per week, loss per week, which is very reasonable, right? Because the leaner you're getting, the more it will probably slow down. In the first initial stages, it was very, very fast, of course, over 1% of body weight loss per week on average, and now it's slowly kind of tapered down. And if I had something like a deadline or kind of a specific goal in mind, I would have also made sure to have a higher rate of loss here in the last couple of weeks. I can tell you that. But because I didn't, I just kept on going with what it is that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to make those calls, especially as you're getting lean though, because sometimes you can visually see you're improving, you know you're in a deficit, so sometimes you want to leave it a little bit. It's always the discussion of, do you want to be assertive or like let it like pass a little bit.
So what I can say is, with the experimentation of the refeeds, what I'm going to try is to not do them consecutively, so back to back, 2 days in a row or so, but I'm actually placing them the day before a leg day. Reason for that is what I just mentioned, that the leg days right now take the most out of me, mentally speaking, but also physically speaking. When I'm going in there, after already 100%. The first set, I can feel that my legs turn to jelly. Today was a leg day. I was doing SLDLs, and I was there with Katie, and I was shaking. And even because you said that you got lightheaded, today was the first time in the entire diet that I actually experienced a little bit of lightheadedness in the gym. After a set of leg press, nice. I needed to sit down. Then it sounded like as if I'm putting some earplugs into my ears, right? This high frequency noise popped up, and then it was just like as if I was wearing earplugs for just like the entirety of a minute. And this is where I then thought, like, okay, I'm not doing the refeeds for performance enhancement or a performance enhancing effect, because some people do that, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, because if you do that, what in return happens is that you're probably inducing a higher amount of fatigue as well. And that is something that I don't want to happen. I'm not using the refeeds to have a higher performance output on those leg days in order to feel shittier afterwards again. That's not my intention. My intention is to feel just a little bit better, but be able then to more or less maintain my performance and not feel as burned out per session or in a session. And that's where I'm then going to play with refeeds the day prior to a leg day. And day prior is mostly because the glycogen takes a little bit of time, of course, to be uptaken. And also, I'm training early in the morning. So that's the rationale for it. And then I'm just going to see how it feels on those leg days and whether I'm seeing any kind of effects on it.
Yeah, I'm always that way with, if you're going to have a refeed on for a training session, if you're training later in the day, sure, maybe you could do it the same day, but for you, mate, like you can't have like an extra bowl of cereal before your workout and expect your session to go miles better or anything. I have interest actually, Pascal. What's your, I know this isn't necessarily beneficial for people, but I'm interested. What does your set volume look like for legs at the moment? Like, say today's session, what does that, how many sets are you managing to, and how does it compare to when you're massing?
The difference is not that significant, to be honest.
Okay.
Wait a second. I could actually, if I find it really quickly here, do I have it open somewhere? No, unfortunately not. But I can do it from the top of my head, actually. So on that first day, I have 4 sets of hack squats, followed by 2 sets of leg extensions, then 3 sets of leg curls, and then I'm doing 2 sets of hyper extensions. Now I'm leaving the calves out of the occasion, which is more like just 2 sets for calves for me on a per session. Then the other leg session is 2 sets of SLDLs, followed by 3 sets of leg curls, 3 sets of leg extensions, followed by 2 sets of leg press, and then also once again 2 sets of calf raises. So it sounds like that the hamstring volume is pretty much the same, but it needs to be taken into consideration that the hamstrings on that, or the hyperextensions on that first day, I always feel them way more in the glutes, to be honest, and they are not as taxing as something like good mornings, SLDLs, RDLs. So I would more so just say like the first day, I'm having more of a quad focus day with 3 sets of leg curls for direct work for the hamstrings, and then the second day is 5 sets for the hamstrings, whereas only 2 sets is coming from a heavy compound lifts, 3 sets is coming from the leg curls, and then the first day, of course, of the for the quads, I have 4 sets coming from a heavier compound lift. That is the hack squats.
I set mine up very similar with it, a hamstring focus day and a quad focus day. My hamstring, like the quad focus day, I only do leg curls. So I have nothing else in there actually. But it's interesting to hear your like where that is, and it sounds like that's not too different to your off season. For me, I'm just surprised how I'm getting such a great amount of stimulus from like I do less than 10 sets for both of my hamstrings and quads a week. I'm just like pretty like I just couldn't do much more. Like it just would my performance to start going downhill. It's not that I'm super beat up necessarily afterwards. I'm still getting a good stimulus.
I mean, if you count that together, what I'm doing at the moment, this is also only 11 sets for the quads, and then if I don't count the hyperextensions towards the hamstrings, because it's our discussion which we always bring up when someone is asking like, okay, what is a dip movement? Is it like a tricep movement or a chest movement? Where do you feel it, right? And the hyperextension is more like, I want to have somewhat of a hip extension movement there, but this is a movement that I feel primarily just in the glutes and not really in the hamstrings at all. So, and then for the hamstrings, it's more like 8 sets in total for the entire week, whereas 6 of them comes from a leg curl. But I have to also say the leg curl machine is fire for me. I mean, this is the movement where I feel my hamstrings the most. And my hamstrings is definitely not a weak body part of mine, like from a physique perspective.
I'm surprised, like my quad volume in an off season, like final week, could I get up probably 15 or so sets, maybe even a little bit above. My hamstring's a little bit below that. Sorry, someone at the door.
Right.
Or not the door, but the buzzer. It's going to go 3 times and then it'll stop. But yeah, I think it's just that old equation or the old discussion of your minimum effective volume and your MRV come closer and closer as you diet for longer. And I can maybe add 1 set to like my quads or hamstrings through a mesocycle at the moment. I'm just like, can't do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, today, if I just were to go off by today's session, I couldn't have done more. I mean, I was thinking the other day of how much I was capable of doing like last year. I think that was even too much in the off season where I was then having issues with my eyesight. I think I just done way too much systemically speaking, and that was also, of course, not sustainable. So probably like much lower than this, but it would be still much more than I'm doing right now. And right now, the session today just beat the crap out of me. Just even a couple of hours later, I was just like still feeling my legs shaking. And that is week number 2 of my mesocycle. That is not even going to like 0 REO or so. So there's a big discrepancy from kind of not a big discrepancy. It's not like a large gap where it's like, I don't know, some people's mesocycle going from 2 sets in the first week to 5 sets per exercise in the last week. And then it just accumulates to like going from, I don't know, 10 sets up to 25. This is not what I'm talking about. It's more like a discrepancy such as yours, going from 10 sets to 15 sets in the off season. That is to me already a huge discrepancy because it's 1/3 of the volume that you've been capable of handling on the season or in a cutting phase.
It's just I just find it so interesting to actually go through it and really see it play out, like see the theory play out in practice. And that's where maturity's definitely helped me this prep, where I've been like, no, I can keep the sets the same. I don't need to do my sets like I do in the off season.
It was the same for me though. And that holds true also in the off season as well. That I needed to reevaluate and question what I was doing like last year, whether this is productive and whether this is a good thing. If you're then out because you burned yourself out, it's also not productive.
No.
And whether I just gotten better, the typical thing that Brian Miner and Eric Helm said of handling more volume up to the point where I can't handle more volume. Right? And perhaps that was actually what was taking place. And I think you're masking the performance then. And it could be that you're not increasing load at all. I'm not saying that I think it's absolutely mandatory to always increase load, but I think that when you're getting or becoming a stronger individual and handling more on the barbell up to a certain extent, I think that you probably need less volume then. You need less time at the gym, and you're still getting the most amount of hypertrophy possibly, and that's actually a positive thing if you're spending less time in the gym, because each and every single unit of volume is a unit of risk. And when you have to do 5 sets for an exercise in comparison to only 2 sets, but both equal the same amount of hypertrophy, let's just say 2 different individuals, I would always think that the one who can get away with lower volume is probably the one who's in a more advantageous position.
Yeah, for sure. It's always definitely preferable to get more from less or get the same from less, spending less time in there. So
that's why I'm also very much looking forward to the next off season of having a little bit, once again a step further in your knowledge and in your experience. And that of course takes you then also further in your endeavors. It's also there what happens with every single aspect in life and every skill that you are pursuing, that you're then getting better and you can take advantage of your lessons learned.
Yeah, that's what I love about it actually. And that's why the whole adage that you gain, I don't know, whatever percentage of your muscle mass within this many years, it's but you're continuously learning and getting better at your craft. And so it doesn't slow down like you might expect it to, and you might suddenly get very smart, you pick up a coach and you're now doing actually specific training. So
maybe theoretically speaking, that is the case, but how often does that happen in real life? Hardly ever.
No.
I mean, I didn't really come across many people who say for themselves that they gained 90% of their muscle mass in their first 3 years. No.
That's why I'm really glad that we're here sharing our journeys, and so that people don't give up after a short period of time and they pursue it for longer and just realize it takes time. You got to enjoy the run, and then you'll get what you want out of it eventually.
Yeah. And the thing is, and that is something that I said already 3 weeks ago, I think it was on the podcast, that when we get together here at the end of October, we will take some pictures together, and then we will put them up online and compare them 2017 together and 2021 together. And this is just a journey that has been going on for 4 years. So the comparison between those 2 pictures, and people can then decide for themselves how far both of us have come. And I know that it's a long way. And it has been so far nothing but a pleasure, and especially for the true OGs. I don't know if someone is still around listening from back from 2017 and still listening to us. If so, please leave it in the comment section below. I would be very curious whether someone is still tuning in ever since then, because that would be amazing. And these people know how much we went through and how far we've come already.
Absolutely. Awesome. And on that note, probably
absolutely
leave it there.
Yeah.
So, and if people again are interested in more details about my prep and everything, if people want to see that, member site is where my program is. You can see all my weigh-ins, you can see my macros, all that good stuff. And they're my kind of more personal vlogs as well. But hopefully people have been enjoying the ones with Gordon. We should have one coming out soon, which will hopefully be interesting again. I'm always excited to just see what he comes out with.
I love those. to be honest. Big shout out to Gordon Greenhorn. He's doing a fantastic job, actually. I really like that format.
Absolutely. And if you enjoy it, let us know in the comments. Boost us, give us a like, give us a subscribe, all that good stuff. Share this with your mum. I mean, your friends.
Unless your mom is really interested in seeing us talk about bodybuilding.
See me in the car park getting my tan on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And guys, we'll talk to you soon. Take care and revive stronger as always.
Cheerio.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.